וכי נפשי es Page 16, Tractate Shabbat. We're going to start a little bit what left in the 15b, and then we go straight to 16. The Gemara today, the Daf, the page discussed the teaching that quoted the name of Rabbi Shimon ben Shetach, that he decreed impurity on metal vessels. So this teaching is a little bit odd because it is clear that the law of impurity regarding to metal vessels are biblical or Torah laws. The Torah said in the book of Numbers, in the book of Bamidbar, chapter 31. So the Gemara, soon you read, explains that this referred to a very specific case. These audiences of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai with regard to the impurity of metal vessels in general was only needed with regard to previous impurity resumed by metal vessels after they are recast. If you remember yesterday, as Rav Yudah said, that the name of Rav, that there was an incident involving Shimon ben Shetach's sister, Shel Tzion, or the queen, Shlom Tzion, who made a wedding feast for her son, and all of her vessels become impure, and she broke all the vessels, and then gave them to the smith, and he welded the broken vessels together and made the new vessels. So, and the sages said what she did was insufficient, and so all the vessels will resume with the previous impurity, which called Tum'ah Yeshana, which we'll discuss. So Shel Tzion, the queen, was the queen of the Hashmonaim dynasty, the wife of the King Alexander Yanai, and the sister of Shimon ben Shetach. So Shel Tzion or Shlom Tzion, there is a street in Yerushalayim called Shlom Tzion. In some sources, her name is Shlomit. Some say that she was originally the wife of the king of the Hashmonaim, Aristobulus. But after his death, his brother Yanai performs an act of the Levirate marriage with her. And although the Hashmonaim king, and specifically Alexander Yanai, has a seducey tendencies, Queen Shlom Tzion followed the Pharisees, which is the more, in our language, orthodoxy, and even during her husband's reign, she labored the an archive unity. But after the death of Alexander Yanai, she continued to rule over Israel for 9 years, and those years in which she served as a political leader, and her brother Shimon ben Shetach guided a daily life and religious life, were considered the happiest year for the people of Israel during the Second Temple period. So with that in mind, now you see, soon we discuss all the law of vessels and things like that. Now you know a little bit background. 15b, close to the end of the Amud, or the page. כלי זכוכית, מי טעמה גזרו בהו רבנן טומאה. So now the Gemara continued the second decree that Yossi and Yossi, Yosef ben Yoezer and Yosei ben Yochanan, that klei zchuchit, that the glass vessels, they accept the tum'ah, they accept the impurity. It's important to know that as we said, that the glass vessels, from the Torah point of view, it's not the issue. It's Yossi and Yossi. They put the decree on the glass vessels. The sages 80 years earlier some said they are the people who put that decree. So because there is no pasuk, there is no sentence about the glass vessels, so we said klei zchukit mai tama gazru beu rabanan tum'a. Why the sages said that it's except impurity? Because if you go by the Torah is not an issue. They don't accept impurity because the Torah did not mention that. So why did the sages put a special decree? So again, the Torah did not say in any place anything in regard to glass vessels. So in other words, if you have an issue of a glass vessels, by the biblical law, it's not a problem. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Amar Reish Lakish. That's a little question because they are like student friends, so it's kind of weird. Some say that it's a question, it's the only place in the Shas that he said in the name of his Chavruta. Anyway, they are relatives. Ho'il v'tchilat briatam min hachol, because the original, the beginning of the manufacture of the glass vessels is from sand, which means a special sand. Shavinu Rabbanan kichlei cheres. So the sages equated them to earthware vessels. It's like they make it the same. So because the foundation of a vessel is from earth, so therefore they make it the same. So the Gemara asks a question. Ela me'ata, if you tell me that so that they make it the same as the earthenware vessels, so lo te'elem ta'ara b'mikveh, so you cannot purify them in mikveh, which means the same way as a kli cheres. Kli cheres, anytime you hear from now on in this shiur kli cheres, you should know that it's earthware vessels, okay? So, like porcelain. So, if kli cheres, you cannot purify it in the mikveh, which means, what do you do with kli cheres? If it's create impurity, let's say if a dead animals, or if you're mixing pizza, dairy with meat, with the kli cheres, with porcelain, what do?
Throw it out, break it.
Break it. Why? Because remember the rule. It's not kebol o kach polto. It's not the same as it's observed, it deserved. The minute that it's observed, it cannot deserve. You cannot take it out. Since that, then any purification will not help. You just need to get rid of that. So it's many places in the Shas they said it. So if you tell me that the glass vessels is the same as porcelain, is the same as kli cheres, so why you tell me that you need to purify them in mikveh? Right? Just a word of introduction. All the vessels that the Torah mentioned, you remember we mentioned in the past couple of days, attached to a dead body. You remember grandfather, father, avi avodah tumah, abba tumah. So trace a situation. Dead person and a vessel touch a dead person. So the dead person is avi avot tumah, grandfather. Remember we said grandfather. What happened to the vessel? The vessel become
contaminated.
Yes, and what is the definition of the vessel? Avatuma. This one is avi avot. Avi avot meaning grandfather. The vessel touched the dead body and become avatuma. Okay? Now, the same way as a person, a living person, touch a dead body, he become an avatuma because it's derivative from the avi avot. The same way apply to vessel. If vessel touch avi avot atuma, it's equivalent to a person that touch avi avot atuma. In both cases, you need 7 days to purify. Right? The third and the 7 is the haza'ah, but the first is you have to have the ha'arev shemesh. You have to wait until the sun set. Now, all the vessels can be purified by the mikveh. There is a mikveh. If you go, for example, in Agudat Israel in Park Heights Avenue, I assume David used to go there all the times. You know, there is a small dishes mikveh next to the shul in the Pinckney and Park Heights. It's open. It's free, and people use that mikveh.
Or the Chesapeake Bay.
Oh, Chesapeake Bay.
Which is
You're
right here.
Just remember to do the bracha.
Yeah.
Anyway, so all the vessels can be purified by the mikveh. However, klei cheres is the only one, the porcelain, that the mikveh cannot purify. Okay? So what do you do? The Torah said, you tats. You tats meaning, boom, you need to break it. Why you need to break it? Because it's getting, we said it early, just to make sure that shvirato, by breaking it, taharato, you purified it. So in other words, if the vessel received the tumah, you broke it, so he is no longer received the tumah. Now, is that so simple? Soon you see a question with that. Example, what happened after you broke it, you take it to a professional, you put it back
together, right?
What's happened to that vessel? Okay, we'll discuss. What?
It's still tumah.
We don't know yet. We don't know. Okay. Alama, why is that? Tnan, the Mishnah said in Tractate Mikvah, chapter 9, Ve'elu chotzetzim bekelim. There is a concept that it's called chatzitza. What is chatzitza? Chatzitza is like a separation.
Mm-hmm.
So they said, when you need to immerse those in a mikveh, so this is basically interpose in the vessel, which means if they were stuck in a vessel, when it was immersed, the vessel is not purified. Okay? Hazefet, the peach, vehamor, the mar, biklei zchukit, that were stuck on the glass vessel. So they obstruct their immersion, and glass vessels are purified in a ritual mikveh. So that contradicted what we said earlier. In other words, what is the chatzitza? Chatzitza meaning when let's say if you go and duck in a mikveh and you carry on your watch, so even all the time you're wearing the watch, but it's still chatzitza. Why? Because you have to duck yourself purely. You cannot duck yourself with wearing your underwear. So it's called chatzitza. It's like separation. It's like a interpose in a mikveh. Now, what we said here, that if this is something that the person care for, let's say an example. There are some people who are wearing this ring. So some rabbis hold it's a big question that if the ring is permanent in a person and you wear it all the times, it's a question if it's chatzitza or not. Remember, chatzitza is interpose, okay? So, but trace a situation, you have a vessel that it's expensive one. You know, vessels, if you talk about, for example, pot. So you have a pot that costs $20, and you have a pot that can cost $300. And what's make a difference in some? It's like you can look at two cars, right? But one have the Lamborghini or the Mercedes engine, and one have, excuse me, don't get offense, a Ford engine. Okay? So even for some people, the firm, the title, the engine, whatever is there makes a difference. So for some vessels, such as pot, for some people just to see the firm, whoever manufactured it, it's worth a lot of money. Okay? Now, this type of little sticker that's stuck on that pot makes a difference. So for a person, figure out if you take out that sticker or you take out that sign of that company, whatever the symbol of that company or the sign, is no value anymore, right? So what you said? You said, okay, you can, when you need to purify this vessel, you can purify it, and it's not considering a chatzitza, it's not considered an interpose, even if it's with the sticker. Okay? So now what you said so far about vessels that made out of glass, that you can purify it. And earlier what you said, that they are the same as klei cheres. So how it's like one contradicted the other. So the Gemara responded and said, Hacha b'may askinan. It is true that glass vessel cannot be purified in the mikveh the same as klei cheres, porcelain. But here they talk about specific situation. Hacha b'may askinan kegon shenikvu vehetif letochan avar, which means the glass vessels and it's make a little it was a hole in the glass, and therefore a person, what did he do? He usually if you have a hole, you see in my house all the times people breaking those glasses that made out of glass, those special product glass vessels. So if it's a hole, you usually trash it, but it was very expensive. So for example, if you use that glass vessels to observe liquid or etc., so he put in avar. Avar, it's like a
molten lead, isn't it?
What is it?
Molten lead.
Molten lead,
Yeah.
and seal it in the hole.
Mm-hmm.
So the minute he did that, now it's a new situation, because from now on, how you consider that, as you cannot consider it anymore as a glass vessel.
It's metalware.
You can metalware, right? So why? Because what make the vessel impure, it's what make the vessel ready for use. And since that little part that you put in now prepare it to be used, then you consider the vessel as a metal. Okay? So Rabbi Meir, he in klei matechet you can duck in the mikveh. Rabbi Meir said, Hakol olech achar amamid. So that's according to Rabbi Meir, who said that everything follow the nature of the facilitator. So why? Because if an object that is not fit for use on its own is reinforced with a different material that facilitated its use, the entire object assumed the legal status of the material. So therefore, if you have here matechet or ferret or all this type of metal, so you use it since the substance that sealed the hole in these glass vessels is lead, which can be purified through immersion of like the other metals. These glass vessels can all be purified in the mikveh. The Tanya, כלי זכוכית שנקבו והטיף לתוכן איבר, אמר הבעל שמעון מגמליאל, עבר, it's like the עופרת, אמר הבעל שמעון מגמליאל, רבי מאיר מטמא וחכמים מתארים. So he said that glass vessels that were perforated with one drip lead into them, so Rabban Shimon Gamliel said that Rabbi Meir deems that ritually impure, and the rabbis deem that it's ritually pure. So he doesn't take care for the matechet. So Tosfot here asks a question, just give you in 2 words the Tosfot. He said, how do you know that? So he gave 2 answers. How do you know that the vessels, that glass, it's really tummy? So he said, one, that it's a glass vessel that that Rabbi Meir hold that it's called matechet from the Torah, and Rabbanan said that it's called glass vessel. So by the Torah it's pure, but by the sages glass vessel need to be broken. The second truth, it's the big machloket here if it's considering tikkun or not tikkun. Ela me'ata. So since you tell me that a glass vessel is the same as the others to accept tuma, now in next page, we are now on page 16. Lo litmu migaban. which means that glass vessels will not accept tuma migabam, which means kli cheres, or like porcelain, the halacha is mitocho, inside metame, it's became impure. Migabo, which means from outside, lo metame, it will not accept purity. So how come the glass vessel is not the same rule as a clay cheres? So alamat nan, we learn in the Mishna in Tractate Kelim. Clay cheres u clay neter, that Rashi said it's made from the white ground. טומאתן שווה, מטמאים ומטעמירים מאווירם ומטעמים מאחוריהם ואין מטעמים מגביהם ושבירתם וטהרתם. כלי נטר וכלי חרס הוא דטומאתם שווה על מידי אחריני לא. So he said here, those type of a clay cheres, the key is when you look at the glass that made the glass vessel, so you do not recognize if you see something impure, if it's inside the glass or outside the glass. Clay cheres, you differentiate between outside or inside, because in the inside it's unrecognizable, the outside you can see it. So the tumah apply only to inside. So here he said clay cheres u clay neter. So he said that in the earthware vessels and vessels made from the netron, the halachot of their impurity are equal, and they become impure if primary source of impurity enter the airspace, and once impure, the red food that entered the airspace impure from the airspace. So that's the key point. So he said here, what we learned so far, we ask a question, why then the glass vessels are not listed together with those vessels? So we said the reason is Amrei Kevan Dechi Nishtabru Yesh Lahem Takana Shavinu Keklei Matachot. So the Gemara answers, since if the glass vessels broke, they have the capacity to be repaired, as the glass can be, recast, right, into a new vessels. So the sages equated them to metal vessels that can also be recast. Ela me'ata, so the Gemara asks, if so, which means you compare glass vessels to others that from outside get tuma, yachzeru letumatan ishana keklei matachot. That's a very interesting thing. They said clay cheres, basically you don't fix. Why? Because it's not so expensive. You can. It's better to buy a new one. Glass vessels in those days was very expensive, so people usually fix. So imagine if you tell me that you now broke it, and you go back and you fix it. That's called Tumah Yishana. What is Tumah Yishana? If a vessel was impure, and we said it's like a porcelain, Shvirato Tarato, you break it, you make it pure. Now you go to a professional, and they put together all these broken pieces, and they make it like a new. So what's the halacha? So the halacha is Chazra Tumah Yishana. So they reassume their previous impurity. So if that's the case, glass vessel needs to be the same as the other, as the matechet. So they said it now, and we learn in Tractate Kelim 11, Klei matachot pshuteihen umekableihem tmeim. That different type of vessels. There are vessels that they have like an ear or something to carry it, and there are vessels like madaf, like straight line. So he said, we learned that in the Mishnah, metal vessels, both the flat vessels which have no airspace and the others that have an airspace, which like a regular pot, are all impure if they come into contact with primary source of ritual impurity. Then he said, נשברו, טהרו, חזר ועשה מהם כלים, חזרו לטומאתם ישנה. If they broke, they become purified. However, if one remade the broke vessels into a new vessels, they resume their previous impurity. חזר, ואילו, so in other words, while in regard with the glass vessels, we learn in the Mishnah, ואילו לגבי זכוכית נען, כלי עץ וכלי אורץ וכלי עצם וכלי זכוכית, פשוטיהם טהורים, ומקבליהם טמאים, נשברו, טהרו, חזר בהם מסם כלים, תמיד טומאה מכאן ולהבא, מכאן ולהבא, אין למפריע לו. So he said here, wooden vessels, and leather vessels, and bone vessels, and glass vessels. Their flat vessels are pure when they come into contact with impurity, and only when you are you put them together, they are impure. If they are broke, so they become purified. However, if he remade the broken vessels into a new vessels, they can become impure from that point, which means when they were recast and the forward. So he said, from the point forward, yes, they become impure, and retroactively they will not become impure, right? They don't reassume their previous impurity. So apparently, what happened here? There is no halacha of the previous impurity as far as glass vessels is concerned. So they said here, they responded, "Tum'at klei zchukit midrabanan vetum'a yeshana." So he said the entire impurity of glass vessels is a Chazal, is a rabbinic decree, and the previous impurity, which take effect in recast metal vessels, is a rabbinic decree. So, with regard to impurity by Torah law, the sages impose a decree of previous impurity. With regard to impurity of rabbinic law, the sages did not impose. They said here, the Rabbanan betumah d'oraita achitu b'Rabbanan tumah, betumah d'Rabbanan lo achitu l'Rabbanan tumah, which means the rabbis did not put the tumah yeshana, the old one, together with the new one. So they said, pshutehen miha letameh. So they said, what about if it's a pshutehem, if the flat vessel, the one that doesn't have anything, it's just flat like madaf, so should in any case become impure, since the impurity of flat metal vessels is by Torah law. So isn't it appropriate to decree the impurity of flat vessels, of flat glass vessels, by rabbinic decree? So the Gemara answered, and they said, the hab shutei kulei machot d'oraita avde barabanan ekera ki echad lo lisrof alai u'truma b'kodashim. The sages made a distinction with regard to glass vessels in order to prevent bringing tumah and consecrated item for coming into contact with them. So he said, for example, through the distinction between glass vessels and metal vessels, everyone will understand that the impurity of glass vessels is not Torah law. So they will not come to burn tumah and consecrated that came into contact with impure glass vessels. Rather, the legal status will remain in some type of abeyance, which means it's not here now. So far we understand that the fear of the Rabbana, the sages, that they should not come to burn the Truma and Kudashim because it's a rabbinic Tuma. So what we understand so far? What we understand so far, the ikar, the key point of the glass vessels, it's because it's the same as the clay cheres, because ikar briatan minachol, that the source of their creation is come from the ground, from the sand. So therefore, you cannot make their tahara, purify them in a mikveh, like cheres. But anyway, they become tumah from the gabam, from the back of the vessels, the same as klei matechet, because they cannot return the Tuma Yeshana. Even you break it, you can and you put it together, it's not the same. So the whole Gzeira of Tuma Yeshana, which means that you go by the previous situation, the sages go by something that originally it was from the Torah. But since there's nothing mentioned in the Torah in regard to glass vessels, so therefore it's different. But again, I wish to have more time. Rabbi Akiva Iger elaborate on that a lot. Now is 16b. Rav Ashi Amar Leolam lechlei cheres damu. So Rav Ashi have a different teruts in regard to glass vessels. He said glass vessels, there was never needed to equate glass vessel to metal vessels. Why? He says actually glass vessels are like to earthenware vessels in every sense. Why? Because they originally created from the hole, from the sand. So but they don't have Tuma Yeshana like we have in Klei Cheres. Ulekaka shelach lo litamu megaban, sand and which you have a difficult for you that the glass vessels like the Klei Cheres should not become impure from the contact of the outer side with the source of something that is not pure. Ho'il v'nir'eh tocho kevaro. What we said, because the inner side look like the outer side, which means that it's so clear that if something, if you have a sheretz, if you have something that it's impure, and you don't recognize if it's inside a glass vessel or it's outside a glass vessel. So therefore, you treat it in such a way that Rashi said that ho'il v'adfanot shkufot, because all the size of the glass vessel is clear, and you don't see it so clearly. So you look at the outer side, the same as the inside, and the Rashash said, כאילו אין הדפנות מפסיקות בינו לבין אחר. It's like the walls, it's not separated between the pieces. So therefore, if you have something that it's impure, touch it, people not differentiate. So in conclusion, what we understand so far, several things. Glass vessel accepting impurity because it's very similar to clay cheres. And there are several things that they are the same as the clay cheres, the earthenware. One, you cannot take it to the mikveh and purify it the same as clay cheres. Second, the pshutehem, something that is like flat one, it's pure like clay cheres. Three, you do not have the tum'ah yeshana. Tum'ah yeshana is like the previous one, like clay cheres. Clay cheres, what we said, if you put it together, it doesn't help. It still carry the tum'ah. Versus clay zchוכית, the minute you broke it and then you give it to a professional to put it together, and he put it together, now if it's a glass vessel, you can use. Right? It's not tum'ah yeshana. Okay? Because the key for all of that is that glass vessels from the Torah, you don't find any line. The Torah did not mention. But the whole idea of juxtaposition between kli cheres and klei zchוכית, it's because it looks like the same, but as you see, there are some differences between them. Now we go to Shimon ben Shetach. You remember that we said previously in page 14b that Shimon ben Shetach put two important things. One is ketubah leisha, that the person should not be impetuous, should not be quick to divorce his wife. So if you write a ketubah and it's involved a lot of properties and a lot of money, so he will think twice, oh, it's too expensive, maybe I should reconsider my problems or my anger or whatever. So he put the ketubah, that she need to be written ketubah, וגזר טומאה על כלי מתכות. The second thing what he did, he said that it's a decree of impurity upon metal vessels. So, metal vessels, we have an issue with that. The Gemara asks, Klei matachot d'oraita ninu? Aren't the metal vessels impure by the Torah law? Because it's written, when Moshe Rabbeinu, they took in the time of the war of Midianite. So they said in the Bamidbar, in the Numbers, chapter 31, אך את הזהב ואת הכסף ואת הנחושת ואת הברזל ואת הבדיל ואת העופרת אך במי נידה יתחטא. They said by the gold and the silver and the bronze and the iron and tin and lead, everything come to fire, it will pass to a fire and it will be pure. So they said clearly that that all these vessels that made out of matechet, so you need to put it in a mikveh to purify them. So why you need Shimon ben Shelach to tell me that? We know it already. So the Gemara responds and he said, Lo nitzrecha, the gzera of the Shimon ben Shelach, we need it, only need it with regard to what? L'tumah yeshana, to a previous impurity, which means reassumed by metal vessels after they are recast. Right? That's Shimon ben Shelach. He said that it's coming back to the old one. The Amar Rav Yehuda Amarav, Rav Yehuda Amarav tells a story. Maaseh b'shel Tzion HaMalka. She was the sister of Shimon ben Shelach. That's the Gemara in Brachot 48. As we said, that it's a different version. Who is she? She'asta mishte livna, that she make a party for her son. This is a queen party, you know, it's a lavish party. ונטמאו כל כליה, which means, it's not clear, but it was a dead body. And all the vessels become impure. So she needs to wait to purify them for 7 days, like a regular dead body purity, but she needs that right away for the party. So what did she do? Ushvaratan. What did she do? Boom. She broke all of them. Untanatam latzoref. So what did she do? After she broke them, she gave them to the smith. Veritkhan, and he welded, right, the broken vessels together. ועשה מהם כלים חדשים, and he made them new vessels. So in other words, he was a professional. He took all these broken two pieces, right, like a puzzle. He put them together with special material for the queen, and looks like brand new. ואמרו חכמים, wait a second, יחזרו לטומאה ישנה. And the sages said, what she did was ineffective, and all the vessels will reassume the previous impurity. So we learn another thing today, which is Tumah Yeshana, that by breaking it and put it together doesn't help. My Tama, what's the reason for this decree, for this gzera? Mishum geder mei chatat nag'uva, in order to avoid that the whole idea of the purification from a dead body by using mei chatat, that those water that combine with a red heifer that you need to sprinkle upon the person who is impure at the 3rd day and at the 7th day of his purification, that if you can purify a vessel by breaking it and put it together, so people will do it in order not to wait 7 days for purification, and therefore all this idea of 7 days will be forgotten. So Rashi tells us that this apply only to this type of klei matechet, all this tumah yeshana, but not in others, because that's specifically for them, because of this problem. So the Gemara asks, Hanicha leman de'amar, lo lechol hatumot amru, ela tumat hamet bilvad amru shapir. We understand that if it applies specifically to a dead body. So it means that if you tell me that this gzera of Tum'ah Yeshana, right, it's only in the vessels that they touch with the dead body and not with others. So now we understand that all the decree of impurification of a dead body, that you need the Meichatat and the 7 days of purification. Ela leman da'amar lechol hatumot amru. But one who said that the Gzera Yeshana apply to what? To every one of all this impurification. Mai ikale meimar. How do you explain the reason for that decree? Because this applied basically on the dead body only, but not the others. Because others, what do? You just duck in a mikveh and you're done. Amar Abaye, the Abaye said there's another reason for the old Tum'ah Yeshana. Gzera shema lo yikavenu bichdei taharato. So Abaye said that the reason is you need to drill in a certain size in order that the vessels considering a broken vessel. In other words, just to break a little bit and pretend that it's over, it's not enough. You have to have a large one, a large hole, in order to make it acceptable by halacha. So he said, and they call it kemotzi rimon, that it's hard to imagine, but rimon is the size of pomegranate. It's like if you can transfer a pomegranate there, so that's this size. So you cannot purify vessels by just put a hole and fix that hole, because then people will make a small hole just to make the rabbis happy, right, or whatever, to make the conscience happy, and the next thing they put it back. So he said, Rava amar gzera shema yomru tvila bat yoma olala. So the decree is that they said that if you put the vessels that you put in the by the ducking in the mikveh that day, until you're waiting for the tzet, the time they start coming out, which called arev shemesh, because if someone see the vessels that it's impure and now you right away the same day use it again, you don't know that it was broken and fixed, right? What do you think? You think you just put it in the mikveh purified it, and now you can use it. So tvul yom, it's posel truma. So in order to avoid it, so that's the reason why they put this decree. My benayu, what's the difference in practical halacha? Ika benayu dertzafinu mirtzaf, that he really broke it totally, and he make them a new one. So according to Rava, you cannot put the decree, because people may say that if a person put something in the mikveh right away the same day, it's good enough and that's it. And by breaking it, they know that it's and you put it together, it looks like fresh, brand new vessels. So therefore, you cannot. He said that it's not become a old tumah. But according to Abaye, since the whole decree, it's because you worry that maybe he put a hole the day that he need to purify it. So they put the gzera of Tum'ah Yeshana in every hole and every time you break it, because people should not go and do all of that. So now after we explain all of that, what we said earlier in the 14b, that different decree of different Tanaim, now we go back to the subject of the 18. You remember that it was 18 thing that they make in the Aliyah of Hananiah ben Chizkiah. So now we have only 9. So we need to do ve'idach mai. What the rest of the decree that they made? You remember between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel, the 18 things. We mentioned only 9. That none. We learn in the Mishnah in Tractate Mikvahot, chapter 4. Hameniach kli tachat hatzinor. If someone put a vessels under the pipe, lekabel ba'em egg shamim, in order to have a raining water. So the idea is, since the sages prohibited adding drowned water to the mikveh, and they set measure of water that disqualified the ritual bath as a 3 log, it was necessary to define what is considered a vessel as far as the halachot of drawn water is concerned. So clearly, if one take something like a vessel and put it under the water and pure it, so it's the issue if it's still considering a mikveh or not. So he said, one who place vessels under the drain pipe in order to collect rainwater, אחד כלים גדולים ואחד כלים קטנים. So he said, the water collected in the vessel is considered drawn water, and in both, in the large vessels, due to the other size, do not become impure, regardless. ואפילו כלי אבנים וכלי אדמה וכלי גללים פוסלים את המקווה. And even with the stone vessels or the earth vessels or the dung vessels made from the dry cattle dung, which do not consider vessel in terms of ritual impurity, here they poslim et hamikveh, they make the mikveh impure. אחד המניח ואחד השוכח, regardless if individual who place it or one who forgets the vessels. So he said that regardless it make the mikveh pasul. דברי בית שמאי ובית הלל, that's the word of בית שמאי. ובית הלל disagree, מטהרים בשוכח. Beit Hillel said that if they someone who forget the vessels because he doesn't mean it, so it's not considering sheiva, drawn, and the water that what is there, it's not make the mikveh impure. Amar Rab Meir nimnu v'rabu Beit Shammai Beit Hillel. The sages said that the Beit Shammai was more than Beit Hillel, and therefore they make halacha according to them that even someone, he forgets that the water is drawn water, makes the mikveh impure. So that was one of the things that it was in the 18 decrees that they made that day. Umodim Bet Shammai b'shochech b'chatzer. Bet Shammai agreed that if someone he forgot in the chatzer, in the courtyard, that it's not under the pipe drain and it's filled with raining water, shehu tahor, because someone under the pipe, it's pure. It's why? Because if someone forget, it's clear that retroactively he meant that he want to have it in that such way. He just forget. But so in other words, we don't take that as the same as someone. It's other places. Amar Rabbi Yossi, he disagree. עדיין מחלוקת במקומה עומדת. Rabbi Yossi said that still the dispute remained in place, and Beit Shammai did not agree with Beit Hillel at all. אמר רב משריה דבר הרב אמרי, כשניחם בשעת קישור אבים, that they said in the school of Rav, everyone agreed that they placed the vessels in the courtyard at the time of the messing of the clouds, a sign that it's about to rain, just before it began to rain, and the water in the vessels is impure, tmeim, because unfit, it's simply intended that the water fill the vessels. Bishat pizur avim divra kol teorim. But at the time that the dispersal of the cloud, and then the cloud met together, and the rain fell, and the vessels filled with the rainwater, so everyone agreed that in that seder that the water is pure. Says it is fit to fill the ritual bath to its capacity because of the time that he placed the vessels under the drain pipe. So his intention was not to fill the rainwater. לא נחלקו, they only disagree, בית שמאי and בית הלל, אלא שהניחם בשעת קישור אבים, that he places at the time of messing of the clouds, ונתפזרו, and the cloud dispersed, וחזרו ונתקשרו, and the rain did not fall, and then the cloud messed again. What's the disputation? מר סבר, one hold, בית הלל hold, בטלה מחשבתו, his thought was negated. Umar Savar lo batla machshavto, and the sage, which is Beit Shammai, hold that his thought was not negated. Which one? Because his original intention was ultimately fulfilled despite the delay in its fulfillment. So that's it. So in other words, they just by putting that vessels, it's done. He already intend to do it. So the Gemara wondered, according to Rabbi Yossi, who said that the disputes still remain in place. So it means that it's not 18, that it's 17. So how you so Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak said that according to Rabbi Yossi, also the other one, it's what they said in a tractate in 31b, Bnot Kutim Nidot Me'arisatan. The daughter of Samaritans, it's called Kutin, are considered to already have the status of Nida from the time of their cradle. So it means that it's, that women that see the time of the menstruation, so she is the same as Ava Tuma for 7 days, right? So usually women don't see it in a very young age. But there is an exception. Even she saw it in the very early stage of her life. Here he used the term first day, which means every stage she became impure. That's the Mishnah in Nida 43. So the Kutim, the Samaritans, they are children of people who worship idols. So that's from the Ashurim, that nation that came, Assyrians that came from the north towards Israel. So and other countries, and they dwell in Samaria, and because they're afraid of the lions, it's a long story. If you read in second book of Kings, chapter 17, so they convert. They're afraid that the lion will kill them, etc. So they convert to Judaism. So it's a dispute between the rabbis if their real conversion taking place is for real, or their conversion is not real. It's a long discussion. So there are those who said, like the Gemara in Kiddushin 75, they say that they're not Jewish at all. There are some say that they are Jewish. But as far as the Nida, the prohibition, the Samaritans hold the same. But they don't hold the same as the rabbi that said that Nida apply to any age, even the very young age. So, and the Samaritans, the Kutin, did not hold. So therefore, even Rashi said, even Ktanot Barisa, that babies, we take from them that it's, so that's an extra takana, extra decree, and that's considering the Bo Bayom Gazru. So that's the altogether you enter the domain of 18. Ve'idach Mai, and what else they put in that day, or what the other decree. So Ditnan, we learn in the Mishnah in Aholot, page 16b. Kol metaltelin, that meviim et hatuma. We learn that all the movable object that it's on the top of the dead body, so they transfer the impurity. Berovi hamardea, in the width of the ox goad. So Amar Rabbi Tarfon said, which means if one side of the object was over the corpse and the other side of the object was over the vessel become impure to the impurity of the tent over the corpse, right? Amar Rabbi Tarfon said, הקפח את בני שזו הלכה מקופחת ששמע השומע וטעה. He used, Rashi said, a very strong word because he was very angry that he says, I'll bury my son if this is not the truncated halacha, which means that he is was angry that that's the inappropriate halacha. ששמע השומע וטעה, that one who heard and he didn't heard it correctly. Practical halacha, first we said about the glass vessels. So we said glass vessels is rabbinic because the Torah did not mention that clearly, so it's rabbinic that they have in the glass vessels. So טומאה ישנה בכלי זכוכית, the Rambam in the Hilchot Kelim, chapter 12 said that although the sages decree impurity on glass vessels and they have status equal, to that of metal vessels, the decree of previous impurity does not apply them, which means Tumah Yishana is not applied to that. Consequently, if they become impure and were later liquefied and recast into a new vessels, they did not reassume the previous impurity. It's not applied to Tumah Yishana, and that's now. Another thing is the inner and outer in the glass vessel. So it's important to know that that since its inner side look like the outer side, so the decree of impurity of glass vessel is based on the manufacture of glass from sand, which led the legal status to be equated to that of the clay cheres vessels. Nevertheless, unlike clay cheres vessels, they become impure from both inside and outside, like the metal vessels. Another gzera, that it's gzera shema yomru tvila bat yoma oltala. So that's the Rambam said in Chot Kelim, chapter 12, decree that they said that the immersion of the same day is sufficient. Any metal vessels that is impure, even if it was recast, it remained its previous impurity by rabbinic decree. The reason for this is the idea that the others see it using the vessels the same day, that it become impure, and they conclude that immersion in the mikveh, it's effective immediately, even before the sunset. So that's the reason they put the decree. Hameniach kelim achar hatzinor, if one places faces under the pipe, if vessels of any kind are placed under the pipe draining rainwater, the water in the vessel is deemed drawn water and disqualified from use in a mikveh. Rambam Ilchot Mikveh, chapter 4. Now, another important thing the Rambam tells us, כשניחם בשעת קישור אבים או בשעת פיזור אבים. If one forget vessels under the pipe when the clouds was messing, and before they dispersed, rain fell and the vessels were filled, the water in them has the legal status of the drawn water, because the vessels were filled in according to its will. So this ruling is according to opinion of Beit Shammai, and that's the decree issue, and it's all according to opinion of Rabbi Meir. So basically, because it's not considered anymore as a raining water, it's considered as a drawn water because he forget it. And tomorrow we elaborate of the whole idea of the oil amet, the tumah that apply if a person is in a contact with dead body while it's in a big tent.
es Hashem